G'day and welcome to Insights and Storytelling with me, Moon Willow. It's a real honour and privilege to have you with me again and contributing your energies to these storytellings. I'm noticing my hair's a little wild at the moment, which is probably quite indicative of all the energies going off at the moment, really, that it is very wild and woolly out there. I'm personally not paying any attention to the larger narratives that are going off in the world at the moment. I am attempting to stay focused on the here and now, and just really trying to navigate the world from a not a closed-in perspective. I don't feel that at all, but I became very conscious in 2020, as I'm sure other people have, of just how unreliable the media is on all levels. And I know that throughout last year I became quite not quite, yeah, that'll work. I started watching a lot of different people on YouTube and sort of started digging underneath the surface and tried to find out what resonated for me and what felt real, what felt true from my perspective. And I'm aware that that is just my perspective. But I have noticed, certainly over the past couple of days, that there is more and more sort of claptrap, for want of a better word. And I've noticed that it's skewed. It's like anything, any stories that we tell or are told are skewed from that particular narrative or person's perspective. And that doesn't mean that that is going to fit for all of us. And I suppose that's part of the reason why I've stopped paying attention to the larger world, as it were. Because if I get drawn in, or I particularly want a certain outcome, that I'm putting my energy into a narrative, or putting my energy into wanting an outcome that may or may not occur, and then what do you do with that expenditure of energy if that particular result or particular outcome doesn't happen? It's a bit like putting I've been talking about making sure that we're not putting our anchor into somebody else or something else, because then we become totally reliant on their interpretation as to whether we're happy, sad, stressed, fearful, whatever. We need to really work out how to really anchor into ourselves and really live in that here and now moment. And that's not to ignore things as they come in. I mean, they're going to impact us on a day-to-day level. But if we're very clear on who we are and how we feel in this present moment, then it hopefully won't rock us as much. Part of what I did today was go back around my reserve. It's been very cold over here, and there's been a high level of ground frost that didn't clear up as the day progressed. And within that pottering around the reserve, I was able to be fully present and had really lovely interactions with other two-leggeds and feathered friends and squirrels and all sorts. And that really helped me feel feel that connection and feel that I'm walking the world or through the world in a manner that fits for me and feels right for me. And I didn't end up feeling compromised in any way. I was able to speak in the way that I wanted to speak. I could walk in the way that I wanted to walk. I noticed what I needed to notice. And some of that, what I noticed today was sort of like there was a thick layer, well, I don't know how thick the layer was, to be honest, of ice over the lakes. And I could see that that was very much how I felt, sort of negotiating and navigating my world at the moment, is that I'm aware that I'm on ice and I can see the different narratives going off and the different polarizations in the world underneath my feet, and trying to stay above that, trying to find where my next step can come, that I maintain my level of feeling of security, of that higher frequency, of that pure light, and the magic and the alchemy that is present and is present in every moment, is just trying not to get drawn in or sucked under into the darker stuff. And it's looking at the ice, it's being aware that the other stuff exists. It's not ignoring it, but it's not slipping into it. It's not falling down or falling through that ice into the darker elements, I guess. But the other sort of thing that sort of came up for me around that, and I ended up having this lovely discussion with a random bloke, because it was the light on the ice was just beautiful and just these gorgeous colours. And I made a comment that it would be an artist's dream, and I know that for all that I enjoy sitting and drawing and attempting to make a picture that is reflective of what I see, I end up being disappointed because I feel like I never do justice to it, but it doesn't stop me from trying. But I recognise that, and I think this is why artists spend hours upon hours just trying to recreate what they see, is that the earth and the universe, whatever we want to call it, can just create the most beautiful of images, and we can see so much in them. And we need to sort of take that breath and the time to see beyond our inner world and our inner struggle, I guess, and just look up and witness and notice that there is magic and alchemy all around us. Yeah, it had been a really blissful walk, and brought a lot to mind. And I just really enjoy meditating in that way, of just being connected, internal and external in that moment. And I do feel that that is sort of the way forward, certainly for myself. I can't change anything that's going off around me on a global level, on whatever the mainstream media is saying, but I can continue to navigate my day-to-day existence in a way that feels right for me. And I've noticed that when I potter through the world in that way, that the people that I meet hold a similar world viewpoint, in the respect that they don't run away from me, they don't judge in any way, that it's just a meeting that feels really genuine and authentic, which I really enjoy. So on that note, we'll see which crystal and chakra which is to be spoken about today. So we're back in the throat. So very much into that authenticity and being able to notice, to really notice those connections and communications and time on a day-to-day level, which do feel like they flow with ease, and that there's no judgment, there's no blockage, there's no hesitation, that it's just that pure meeting. And also it is still noticing the underlying thought processes that can go with that, and are they of a darker quality or are they lighter? I could have become fixated on how cold it was, or noticing those that seem to be walking the mainstream narrative. I could have been focused on that, but I chose to focus on sort of the pure interactions, the ones that were walking in a similar way to me, noticing sort of how it was uplifting my mood, and that had that response of actually feeling like I'm participating in creating something that's special and helping to alchemize the world around me, and alchemize with my inner world at the same time. So so it is very much looking at the power of the throat, and again, as I say, sort of noticing our responses. And some of that for me is noticing that if something comes up on the mainstream media, that I have an automatic reaction to it, which can be quite negative, or annoyance, anger, etc. I think I was saying this yesterday, and it's acknowledging that, but not stepping into it, letting that go, and recognizing that other people are going to believe what they're going to believe, and it's just focusing back in on our way of walking through the world, and giving that voice, and just continuing to honour our voices through that. So we'll see what cards come out to further this storytelling. So if you could focus your energy on the cards, I really appreciate it. And I'm going to split. So we've got the polar bear, the ring, and the rubber mouse. So polar bear, it's very much it is that protection, that mama bear protection, and having that awareness that there are still going to be situations and times when we are going to have to interact in places and spaces that don't match our authenticity, our truth. And in those moments, it's having an awareness of when they're more likely to occur. So really remembering to put our shields up and put our protections up. And it goes into what I was saying as well, is very much anchoring into ourselves and anchoring into earth and source, and utilizing that extra energy to keep us protected, and trying not to step into arguments or disagreements with others that have a different perspective, a different understanding of the world that they're living in, that can be very contrary to the one that we choose to live in. And as I say, neither one is right or wrong, it's just what feels right for us. And it's really holding on to that. And as I say, if we end up putting our anchor into somebody else, or we are parroting somebody else without fully understanding what it means for us, and that particular outcomes become more important than how we're feeling, that can actually end up pulling us into a space that isn't right for us. And then if that goes tits up, for want of a better expression, then that can have a huge impact on how we're feeling and how we react and respond. So it is really important that, yes, we listen to external sources to gain information, to gain an understanding of what's happening around us. But it's really important to recognize that we are in control, that we are writing our own stories, that we are the narrator of our own stories and the main actor of it, and that we take responsibility for that at the same time. And that has an implication in how we speak internally, how we speak externally. And also putting, if we're in that here and now, or putting things into a higher, asking from a higher perspective to be supported as we walk forward. I sort of became aware of this earlier. It's like asking for help from a higher source, or my higher self. And then I thought, well, that's no different than putting my anchor somewhere else, but actually it isn't. It's still taking responsibility, but also asking for that support at the same time, but not relinquishing control of my own life. It's still maintaining that. It's still maintaining the connection with myself, but also recognizing that I don't have all the answers, but that I'm open to hear different answers and different perspectives, so that I can keep myself informed, so that I can make choices and decisions that feel right for me, so that I can go ahead responsibly, without sort of saying giving up control completely to somebody else or some other entity, and then turning around and blaming them. It's really holding self within that, and that for me sort of brings in the next card, the ring, and that partnership. And it's a partnership with, as I say, with ourselves, but it's also a larger partnership. So it's maintaining our sovereignty, it's maintaining our complete self, and not giving it away to somebody else, but actually recognizing that we can gain support from external sources without losing ourselves completely. It's not giving up our identities, or giving responsibility away to somebody else. It's keeping that responsibility whilst being heard and listened to, so that recognition that we are a part of something larger, but still completely separate at the same time. So that comes back to the polar bear, and having our own protection, our own sense of security, our own holding the rudder and steering, but also sort of listening to advice or hearing from other people, but not giving away all responsibility or to that other. I'm hoping this makes sense. And that comes in then with the last card, the mouse. It's really being aware of where our energy is going, and it is really tiring at the moment. I'm finding it incredibly tiring to maintain an equilibrium as I walk forward in this world at the moment, especially if I find myself open to the mainstream media, or places that are holding a completely different view to my own. it's very difficult to not step into a response or a retort if you hear something contrary to your own belief. And that can, and I've noticed for myself that it has made, there's times when I've felt really annoyed about the situation that I find myself in at the moment, and sort of when I do that, it feels like I've lost control. So it's remembering that actually if we continue to hold internally, not lose extra energy by entering into discussion or communication with those that hold a diametrically opposed opinion, but really hunker down, really get our shields in place, really connect into earth, connect into ourselves and our partnership with ourselves, and focus more on those relationships or those moments that are magical and where we are met equally, and not meant to, don't need to express an opinion one way or the other, but simply be in that present moment. And I've found that that's happened to me a couple of times today, so I know that it's achievable. And the other side of that is sort of if we are listening to sort of like the mainstream media, or we're looking too much under the ice or noticing too much of the riptide or the darker energies, that can actually bring up fear and anxiety in us, and that ends up losing extra energy as well. It's like, what if I don't make enough money? What if I don't have food to feed myself? What if I don't have what if I don't know, end up with a fine? What if? And those what ifs uses a lot of energy. So it's just, I think for me today, it's been very much an eye-opener of really staying present in the here and now, and just noticing the connections and how that has buoyed my spirits and helped me feel like I'm in a higher vibration and that higher energy. And it gives me a sense of hope as well, that we can create a world where we can be met equally, that we can coexist, we can cohabit, that I don't have to lose who I am in doing that. I can maintain me as I meet other people. And I think that's really important, and that's without conditions. That's without anybody saying that I'm wrong or that I'm right. It doesn't matter. That just simply being me is okay. And I think what I'm saying to you is being you is okay. But it's really important at the moment to take that time and really feel into your voice and hear your thoughts and understand where they come from. Let go of the ones that don't belong to you. Let them be alchemized by the earth underneath your feet, and track where they come from. And is that feeding into a deeper level of anxiety? Is that the what ifs that are coming through? Am I worthy enough? All of that has a habit of keep coming back up, and sometimes catching us unaware. So it's really important just to take that time and space to notice. And the time and space doesn't have to be meditating in the traditional way or the perceived way of just sitting in silence. I mean, that has its place. But for me, I find that actually walking in nature is a beautiful way for me to meditate, because I can see the connectedness. I can see how I'm connected to the world, and how I can acknowledge that and be a part of it and add to it. And we do add to it, we don't detract from it, if we're walking in an honouring way and a respectful way. So So yeah, I think, and the other thing with the mouse, as well as what I've been saying, is if we lose our anchor point, or we put too much of our energy into outcomes of a certain person becoming a leader, or whether a particular medication is going to make a difference or not make a difference, all of that is neither here nor there. It's about really listening into ourselves and really trusting our responses to it all, and honouring that, and recognising if we're beginning to feel forced into a corner. Why are we creating that corner? How can we actually navigate out of it? Remembering that we are strong, remembering that we have the ability to move in the world in the way that we would like to move into. And that's a lot easier to do if we've got our shields up and we're anchored and partnered to ourselves, partnered to the earth under our feet, partnered to source, and really be mindful of where our energy is going. And is that energy going down the lines of the what ifs, and sort of buying into the fear and the anxiety that keeps being portrayed on a regular basis. The worry that we may fall into the river or go under the ice, noticing that there are others around us that will be able to give us a helping hand to get out of it, that can hold our hand as we're navigating through, without pulling us off our own path, but actually supporting us as we're walking our path. And that is a good way of gaining extra energy. So I'm hoping this is making sense. I'm going to see, I find it quite amusing that we've got throat 2 days in a row. But considering what the main narrative is around, that makes sense, to be honest. And there is a lot more conditions, there's a lot more strictures happening at the minute that is about preventing us from speaking our truth, and really wanting to silence us from saying what we need to say. And for me today, there's been a blissful experience in meeting so many people that were willing to pass the time of day with me without conditions. They didn't know me from anybody else, but they were just enjoying the space as much as I was, and were able to express that without any conditions. And it's more and more of those that I'm really looking forward to experiencing again and again, and noticing when there feels like a condition attached, and walking away from that, and not losing energy by trying to fight something that is you just can't fight really at the moment, other than the only way really to fight this is to really find your inner strength, your inner voice, your inner ability to navigate through in a manner that fits and feels right for you. So, so I'll get today's sound. Thank you very much for joining me again. I do appreciate it. Look after yourselves. With a bit of luck, I will be back tomorrow. Who knows where the universe takes us, though, in the meantime. Just take it steady, remain true to yourself, and anchor and ground. I think they're very important at the moment, and find that space to nurture and nourish your soul, so that you can really feel the way forward for you in that now moment. So love you all. Take care. Bye for now.